The sky was angry that Saturday afternoon. Rain hammered down like a million tiny fists, pounding on everything below. Thunder roared, so loud it felt like the world was cracking open. Lightning split the dark clouds, turning everything bright white for just a second before darkness swallowed it all again. On Highway 52, far from any town, an expensive silver car sat crooked on the side of the road. Its hazard lights blinked orange in the storm. Blink, 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 like a heartbeat that wouldn't quit. Inside the car, an old man named Clint gripped the steering wheel with both hands. His knuckles were white. His jaw was tight. He was 74 years old, and he had more money than most people could count in a lifetime. He owned businesses, buildings, and boats. People called him sir and opened doors for him wherever he went. But right now, none of that mattered. His rear tire was completely flat, destroyed. A huge nail had punched right through it 5 miles back, and he'd barely made it to the shoulder before the tire gave up completely. Clint stared at his phone. No signal. Of course there was no signal. This empty stretch of highway didn't care who he was or how much money he had. He looked out at the storm. Rain sheeted across his windshield so thick he could barely see 10 feet ahead. Going outside meant getting soaked to the bone in seconds. It meant struggling with a heavy tire in the mud. It meant admitting he was just an old man who couldn't do everything by himself anymore. His pride burned in his chest like hot coal. "I've changed 1,000 tires," he muttered to himself. "I don't need help." But his hands shook a little when he said it, and his back already hurt from just sitting too long. Deep down, underneath all that pride, a small voice whispered the truth. "You're not as strong as you used to be." Clint took a deep breath. He grabbed his expensive jacket from the passenger seat, pushed open the door, and stepped out into the storm. The rain attacked him immediately. Cold, heavy, relentless. Within 3 seconds, his jacket was plastered to his body. Water ran down his face and into his eyes. The wind pushed against him like it wanted to knock him over. He shuffled the back of the car, trying not to slip in the mud. When he looked down at the flat tire, his heart sank even deeper. It wasn't just flat, it was shredded, ruined. The rim was sitting almost directly on the road. Of all the days, he growled at the sky. He popped open the trunk and stared at the spare tire and jack. They looked heavier than he remembered. His back twinged just looking at them. That's when Clint heard something strange cutting through the storm. A squeaking sound. Metal on metal. Rhythmic. Getting closer. He turned around, squinting through the rain. Out of a gray curtain of the storm, a bicycle appeared. Old and rusty, with a crooked front wheel that squeaked with every rotation. And riding that bicycle was a boy. A young black boy, maybe 13 or 14 years old, wearing a soaked hoodie that clung to his thin frame. His sneakers splashed through puddles. His face was determined, like the storm couldn't stop him even if it tried. The boy pulled up next to Clint's car and hopped off his bike, letting it fall into the wet grass. "You need help, mister?" The boy called out, rain streaming down his face. Clint blinked. He hadn't expected this. Not here. Not now. Not from a kid on a beat-up bicycle in the middle of a storm. "I'm fine," Clint said automatically, the words coming out harsher than he meant. The boy didn't leave. He walked closer, looking at the destroyed tire, then at Clint, then at the open trunk. "That tire's real bad," the boy said. "You got a spare?" I said I'm fine. Clint's voice was sharp now, defensive. He didn't know why. Maybe because he felt embarrassed. Maybe because accepting help from a soaking wet kid felt like admitting defeat. The boy stood there for a moment, water dripping from his hood. His eyes were calm, steady, not afraid of Clint's grumpy tone at all. "My name's Jaden," the boy said quietly. "And I know you're fine, mister, but that tire ain't gonna change itself, and this storm ain't letting up. I've changed plenty of tires before. My uncle taught me. I can have this done in 15 minutes, maybe less." Thunder crashed overhead, so loud both of them flinched. Clint looked at Jaden, really looked at him. The boy's clothes were worn and patched. His bicycle was probably older than he was. But his eyes held something Clint hadn't seen in a long time. Not pity, not judgment, just honest-to-goodness willingness to help. Clint's throat tightened. He wanted to say no. He wanted to send this boy away and struggle through this himself, because that's what he'd always done. That's who he was, a man who solved his own problems. But another crack of thunder made the decision for him. The storm was getting worse, not better. And this boy, this kid named Jaden, was already soaked, already here, already offering something real. Clint's shoulders sagged just a little. 15 minutes, he asked. Jaden nodded. Maybe less. All right, Clint said quietly, stepping back. All right. Jaden didn't waste time. He moved the trunk with quick, sure movements. He grabbed the jack like it weighed nothing, positioned it under the car frame with expert precision. His hands worked fast, spinning the jack handle, lifting the car inch by inch. Clint stood there in the rain, watching this boy work, watching him do in 2 minutes what would have taken Clint 20, with half the struggle and none of the complaining. Who was this kid? Why was he out in this storm? And why did watching him work make Clint feel something strange in his chest, something that felt like shame and wonder mixed together? The lug nuts came off one by one. Jaden's thin arms worked the wrench with a rhythm that spoke of practice. Real practice. Not the kind you get from watching videos, but from actually doing this again and again. Where'd you learn to do this? Clint asked over the sound of the rain. My uncle's shop, Jaden called back, grunting as he pulled the ruined tire free. He fixes cars. Been helping him since I was 8. 8 years old. This boy had been changing tires since he was 8. Clint felt something inside him shift. Something uncomfortable and necessary. Jaden hefted the spare tire from the trunk. It had to weigh 40 pounds at least, and lined it up with the bolts. He slid it on smooth as butter, then started threading the lug nuts back on with his fingers first, then tightening them with the wrench in a star pattern. Professional. That's what it was. This 14-year-old boy worked like a professional. Almost done, Jaden said, giving the wrench one final pull on each nut. Then he lowered the jack, removed it, and tossed the ruined tire into the trunk. He wiped his hands on his already soaked jeans and turned to Clint. You're good to go, mister. 14 minutes. Maybe 13. In the worst storm Clint had seen all year, this boy had changed his tire faster than most mechanics could do it in a warm, dry garage. Clint's hand moved automatically to his wallet. He pulled it out, opened it, and grabbed a stack of wet $100 bills. Here, Clint said, holding out the money. For your trouble. This is... No, thank you, Jaden said. Clint froze. What? I don't want your money, mister. Jaden picked up his rusty bicycle from the grass. I just wanted to help. That's all. And before Clint could say another word, Jaden threw his leg over his bike and started pedaling back into the storm. The squeaking sound faded slowly, swallowed by rain and thunder, until the boy disappeared completely into the gray curtain of the storm. Clint stood there, money still in his hand, rain still falling, watching the empty road where Jaden had vanished. Something had just happened, something important, something that made his chest feel tight, and his eyes sting with something that definitely wasn't rain. For the first time in years, Clint Eastwood didn't know what to do. Clint sat in his car for 10 full minutes after Jaden disappeared. The engine was running. The heater was blasting warm air. But Clint couldn't feel it. All he could feel was the weight of those $100 bills, still clutched in his hand. Nobody said no to his money. Nobody. In Clint's world, everything had a price. Need a problem solved? Pay someone. Want someone's time? Pay them. Need help? Pay for it. That's how the world worked. That's how it had always worked for him. But that boy, Jaden, had looked at a stack of money that could have bought him a new bicycle, new clothes, maybe fed his family for a month, and he said 2 words that kept echoing in Clint's mind. No, thank you. Clint put the car in drive and pulled back onto the highway. The rain was finally starting to ease up. The storm was moving on, leaving everything clean and dripping behind it. But Clint's mind was racing faster than his windshield wipers. Why? He kept thinking. Why would a kid dress like that, riding a bike like that, turn down money? The question chewed at him all the way home. It sat with him through dinner that night, expensive food he barely tasted. It followed him to his big, empty house with its 12 bedrooms and 4 bathrooms and not a single person in it but him. That night, Clint barely slept. He kept seeing Jaden's face, kept hearing that squeaky bicycle, kept remembering those quick, sure hands working in the rain without hesitation, without complaint. When had someone last helped him without wanting something in return? Clint couldn't remember. Maybe never. By Sunday morning, Clint had made a decision. He picked up his phone and called Marcus, his assistant. "Marcus, I need you to find someone for me," Clint said. "Of course, sir. Who are we looking for?" "A boy, 14 years old. Maybe. Black kid named Jaden. Lives somewhere near Highway 52, probably within biking distance. Rides an old rusty bicycle. Works on cars." There was a pause on the other end. "Sir, that's not much to go on. Do you have a last name? An address?" "No, but you're good at finding people, Marcus. That's why I pay you." Another pause. "Then I'll do my best, sir." It took Marcus 6 hours. 6 hours of calling local schools, checking with auto shops in small towns along Highway 52, asking questions at gas stations and diners. Finally, a mechanic at a little shop called Ray's Repairs said yes. He knew a kid named Jaden who helped out sometimes. Smart kid, good kid, lives with his mom over on Maple Street. Marcus called Clint with an address. "Sir, I found him. But I should tell you, I asked around a bit. The boy's mother is sick. Cancer. They're struggling pretty bad. He works odd jobs after school to help pay for her medicine. That's probably why he was out yesterday, running an errand for someone in the storm." Clint's chest tightened. Everything suddenly made sense. Jaden wasn't out joyriding in a storm. He was out there because he had to be, because his family needed him, because a sick mother was waiting at home. And still, he had stopped to help a stranger on the side of the road. Still, he had refused money he desperately needed. Clint sat down heavily in his leather chair. His big, expensive house felt even emptier than usual. That night, Clint didn't sleep at all. He sat in his study, staring at the wall, thinking about a life he'd almost forgotten, a life before money and power, a life when he was young and struggling, when his own mother had been sick, when he'd worked 3 jobs just to keep the lights on. Back then, a neighbor had helped them. Mrs. Chun, an old lady who barely spoke English, had brought them soup every night for 3 months. She never asked for money, never wanted anything back. Just help because that's what neighbors did. Clint had forgotten about Mrs. Chun, had forgotten what it felt like to receive help that came with no strings attached, had forgotten that kindness like that even existed in the world. But Jaden had reminded him. By Monday morning, Clint knew what he needed to do. This wasn't about paying back a debt. This wasn't a business transaction. This was about something bigger, something that money usually couldn't buy. But money could help, if used the right way. Clint made a phone call to Marcus. "I need you to arrange something for me, and I need it done today." "What do you need, sir?" "I need a black SUV, filled with groceries. Good stuff, not cheap stuff. Get gift cards to the grocery store, the pharmacy, the gas station. Get rain gear, warm coats. Get whatever a family needs to get through a hard winter. And Marcus..." "Yes, sir?" "I want to deliver it myself." There was shocked silence on the phone. Marcus had worked for Clint for 15 years. Clint didn't deliver things himself. Clint didn't drive to poor neighborhoods. Clint stayed in his world, and other people came to him. "Are you sure, sir?" Marcus asked carefully. "I'm sure. Set it up. I'll be there at 3 p.m. Clint hung up before Marcus could ask any more questions. He stood up and walked to his window, looking out at his perfect lawn, his perfect garden, his perfect life that suddenly felt hollow and cold. That boy had changed something in him. In one storm, in 15 minutes, without saying more than a dozen words, Jaden had cracked something open inside Clint's chest that had been sealed shut for years. Generosity. Real generosity. Not the kind where you write a check to a charity and get your name on a building. Not the kind where you donate money and take the tax break. The kind where you see someone struggling and you stop. You get your hands dirty. You help because helping is what humans are supposed to do for each other. Clint looked at his reflection in the window. An old man looked back at him. Tired, wealthy, lonely. Time to remember who you used to be, he said to his reflection. At 2:45 p.m., Clint climbed into the driver's seat of a black SUV packed so full of supplies the back seat was barely visible. Marcus had done good work. There were bags of groceries, winter coats still in their packaging, gift cards and envelopes, and a special envelope with Clint's personal business card and a handwritten note. Clint drove slowly through the neighborhoods near Highway 52. The houses got smaller. The yards got messier. Paint peeled from shutters. Chain-link fences replaced white pickets. This was where real people lived. People who worked hard and still struggled. People like Jaden and his mother. Finally, Clint found Maple Street. The houses here were tiny, some of them barely bigger than his garage. He checked the address Marcus had given him. 247 Maple Street. He pulled up slowly and parked. The house was small and tired-looking. The porch sagged a little. The mailbox leaned to one side. But the tiny yard was neat, and there were flowers planted by the front steps. Flowers someone had cared for even when they probably had 1,000 other worries. Clint's heart hammered in his chest. He felt nervous. Actually nervous. When was the last time he'd felt nervous? He grabbed one of the bags from the back seat and walked up to the front door. Before he could knock, the door opened, and there stood Jaden. The boy's eyes went wide. His mouth fell open. He recognized Clint immediately. "Mister?" Jaden whispered. What are you doing here?" Clint smiled. For the first time in years, it was a real smile. Not a business smile. Not a polite smile. A real one. "I came to say thank you properly," Clint said. "The way I should have said it on Saturday. And I brought some things. For you and your mom, if you'll accept them." Jaden stared at the bag in Clint's hands, then at the SUV packed full behind him, then back at Clint. I can't." Jaden stammered. "You can," Clint said gently. "Please, let me do this. You helped me when I needed it. Now let me help you." A voice called from inside the house. Weak but warm. "Jaden? Who's at the door, baby?" Jaden turned his head. "Mom, it's the man from the highway. From Saturday." Footsteps shuffled. A thin woman appeared behind Jaden, wearing a robe and a headscarf. Her face was gaunt, but her eyes were kind. This was a woman fighting hard to stay alive for her son. "Ma'am," Clint said, nodding respectfully. "Your son saved me on Saturday. He's an exceptional young man. I'd like to show my gratitude, if you'll allow it." Jaden's mother looked at her son, then at Clint, then at the bag and the SUV beyond. Tears filled her eyes. "Sir," she said, her voice shaking, "you didn't have to." "I know," Clint interrupted gently, "but I want to. Please." For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Jaden's mother nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks, and opened the door wider. "Come in," she whispered. "Please come in." Clint had been in mansions, penthouses, and palaces all over the world. He'd walked through marble halls and golden doors. He'd seen chandeliers worth more than most people's houses. But walking into Jaden's small living room felt more important than all of that. The house was tiny. The furniture was old and worn. The carpet had stains that no amount of scrubbing could remove. But it was clean. Everything was neat and organized. There were books stacked carefully on a shelf. Photos on the wall showed Jaden as a little boy, always smiling, always with his mother. This was a home full of love, even if it wasn't full of money. "Please sit," Jaden's mother said, gesturing to the couch. She lowered herself slowly into a chair, moving like every bone in her body hurt. "I'm Sarah Williams." "Clint," he said, sitting down. "Clint Eastwood." Jaden stood near the door, watching everything with wide, uncertain eyes. "Your son did something remarkable on Saturday," Clint said, looking at Sarah. "I was stuck in that storm, and I'm not as young as I used to be. Jaden changed my tire in 15 minutes. Wouldn't accept a penny for it. Just help because he wanted to help." Sarah looked at her son with pride shining through her tears. "That's how I raised him. To help people when they need it, even when we don't have much ourselves. Especially then," Clint said quietly. He paused, choosing his words carefully. Ma'am, I'm going to be honest with you. I had my assistant look into your situation. I hope that doesn't upset you. Sarah's face went still. Jaden tensed. I know about your illness, Clint continued gently. I know things have been hard. And I know that Jaden works himself to the bone trying to help you. That boy was out in that storm on Saturday running errands to earn money, wasn't he? Sarah nodded slowly, wiping her eyes. He was picking up a prescription for Mrs. Watson down the street. She paid him $20. He does things like that after school. Yards, groceries, car repairs. Whatever people need. Her voice broke. I hate that he has to do it. He should be playing basketball with his friends, going to movies, being a kid, but the medical bills. She couldn't finish. She just covered her face with her hands and cried. Jaden rushed to his mother's side. It's okay, Mom. I don't mind. I like helping. Really. Clint's chest felt like someone was squeezing it. This boy, this incredible boy who had every reason to be angry at the world, was comforting his mother, telling her he liked working in storms to earn $20. Mrs. Williams, Clint said, and his voice was thick with emotion he didn't try to hide. Sarah, I want to help. Not because I owe you, not as a business deal, but because your son reminded me of something I've forgotten. What's that? Sarah asked, looking up at him with red eyes. That kindness still exists in this world. Real kindness. The kind that doesn't ask for anything back. The kind that stops in a storm to help a stranger. Your son has that kindness. You taught him that, and I want to honor it. Clint pulled out the envelope from his jacket. Inside was his personal business card and a handwritten note. He handed it to Sarah. In that SUV outside, there are groceries for 3 months. Gift cards at every store you might need. Winter coats. Medicine money. But more than that, he took a deep breath. I've made arrangements with County Memorial Hospital. Your medical bills are paid. All of them. Past, present, and future treatment. The room went silent. Sarah stared at the envelope, her hand shaking so badly she almost dropped it. What? She whispered. What did you say? Your medical bills are paid, Clint repeated. Every penny. And there's more. I've set up a college fund for Jaden. Full ride to any school he wants to go to when he graduates. He's got the grades. I checked. He deserves a chance. Jaden made a sound like all the air had left his body. He grabbed the back of his mother's chair to steady himself. And one more thing, Clint said. He pulled out another card, his personal cell phone number written on it. This is my private number, not my assistant's. Mine. If you ever need anything, and I mean anything, you call me. Doctor's appointments, car trouble, help with homework, doesn't matter. You call me. Sarah couldn't speak. She just stared at Clint like he'd appeared out of a dream. Tears streamed down her face, and her whole body shook with sobs. Jaden's eyes were wide and wet. Why? He whispered. Why are you doing all this? Clint looked at this 14-year-old boy who'd changed his life with one simple act of kindness. He thought about his big empty house, his lonely dinners, his life full of money but empty of meaning. Because you helped me with more than a tire, Jaden, Clint said. You reminded me what it means to be human. You reminded me that money isn't the most valuable thing in the world. Kindness is. Generosity is. Helping someone just because they need help. That's what matters. He stood up, his knees creaking a little. When I was young, not much older than you, my mother got sick. We had nothing. But our neighbor, Mrs. Chun, helped us, brought us food, checked on us, kept us going. I promised myself back then that if I ever made it big, I'd be like Mrs. Chun. I'd help people the way she helped us. Clint's voice got quiet. But somewhere along the way, I forgot. I got rich. I got successful. And I forgot what it felt like to help people without expecting anything back. Until Saturday. Until you... Jaden walked over to Clint. For a moment, the boy just stood there, looking up at this old man who'd driven across town to say thank you. Then Jaden hugged him. It wasn't a polite hug. It was a real one, tight and desperate and grateful. The kind of hug that says thank you and you changed my life, and I'll never forget this all at once." Clint hugged him back, and for the first time in longer than he could remember, he felt tears on his own cheeks. When they finally pulled apart, Sarah had stood up. She walked over slowly and took Clint's hands in hers. "Mr. Eastwood," she said, "you've given us more than money today. You've given us hope. You've given my son a future. I don't know how to thank you." "You just did," Clint said. "And please call me Clint." They spent the next hour unloading the SUV together. All three of them carried bags into the house, filling the small kitchen with food, stacking coats by the door, organizing gift cards on the table. They worked together and they laughed together. And for that hour, Clint didn't feel like a billionaire and they didn't feel poor. They just felt like people helping people, like neighbors, like friends. When everything was inside, Clint stood on the porch, getting ready to leave. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and pink. It was beautiful. "There's one more thing," Clint said. "I'd like to take you both out for coffee sometime. Just to talk, get to know you better. If that's okay." Jaden grinned, the first real smile Clint had seen from him. "I don't drink coffee, but I like hot chocolate." "Hot chocolate it is," Clint said, smiling back as he drove away. Clint looked in his rear-view mirror. Jaden and Sarah stood on their small porch, waving. Two people who'd been struggling just to survive, now waving goodbye to a friend. That night, in his big house, Clint didn't feel lonely anymore. He picked up his phone and looked at the photo he'd taken of Jaden and Sarah on their porch. He made it his phone's background. Then he opened his laptop and started typing. He was writing a new mission statement for his company, a new philosophy. From now on, his businesses wouldn't just make money. They'd help people, really help them, the way Mrs. Chun had helped his family, the way Jaden had helped him on that rainy highway. The storm had passed days ago, but effects were still rippling outward, changing lives, changing hearts, changing everything. All because one 14-year-old boy had stopped to help a stranger in the rain. Think about this. When was the last time you helped someone without expecting anything back? When was the last time someone helped you? Those moments matter more than we realize. They ripple out into the world like circles on water, touching lives we'll never even know about. If this story touched your heart, here's what you can do. Like this story if it made you feel something real. Every like tells us you want more stories about kindness and hope. Comment below and tell us, what's the kindest thing a stranger ever did for you? Or what's a time you helped someone without expecting anything back? Your stories inspire others. Share them with us. Share this story with someone who needs to remember that good people still exist. Send it to a friend. Post it to your page. Let's spread kindness like wildfire. Subscribe so you never miss stories like this. We share true tales of human kindness, unexpected heroes, and moments that restore your faith in humanity. Hit that subscribe button and join our community of believers in the good. Remember, you don't need to be a billionaire to change someone's life. Sometimes all it takes is stopping in the rain, being kind when it's hard, helping when no one's watching. Be someone's Jaden today. The world needs more people like him. What will your story be?